Bowling off this Friday edition of the Sports Max Zone with cricket, the curtain comes down on this year's Hero CPL. Tonight, the final between Barbados Royals and Jamaica Tallwahs at Providence in Guyana coming up in just under an hour. Ahead of the contest, rival captains Kyle Mears and Robman Powell spoke to the media.
Very jam-packed, so the guys were very happy to win the qualifier, not to be able to play the extra game. You know, as Ravi said, I said, you know, just win the game. We celebrated and we have some time to recover and focus on this game to come.
Yeah, definitely. It would mean the world to me. You know, the past 2 seasons that I've captained, it haven't gone well for the franchise. You understand? So now for us to be in the final, for me to captain the team to the final, and maybe just maybe a CPL championship would go well for me personally, and it would go well for the franchise. You know, the franchise haven't tasted CPL victory in a few years. And you know, I think we have sat down and we have said that we are a better franchise, and that's.
Okay, so we are joined by Nikhil Uttamchandani as we preview today's final. Nikhil, let me start here. Who are favourites here? The Barbados Royals were the top performing team in the group stage before they got to the playoffs, but the Tallwahs have looked good in the playoffs. Who are favourites?
I think the Barbados Royals, they have to start as favourites. I mean, any team that's able to win that qualifier, get a couple of days rest, and then go into that final with those extra days rest, I think helps them massively. But we have seen in franchise cricket in the past where the days off sort of affect the rhythm of a team, or it can affect the rhythm. So watch for that Tallwahs side, a side that just put 226 runs on the board against the Amazon Warriors. They know conditions. It's the same surface that was used on that day. And I think it could go either way. Cricket is a beautiful game that's played on the day. And, I mean, may the best team win.
Tallwahs have never lost the CPL final, Nikhil. Having said that, the first time they won, I don't think any of the players tonight were in that game, but maybe a couple in the second title that they won, Robman Powell and Wasim. How much confidence will the Tallwahs and their captain Robman Powell take from that, the fact that they haven't lost the final?
Yeah, I think some confidence, but they won't take too much from it. And I'll say that because, as you said, they've got some new players. I do love the additions that they made this season. You look at the overseas players especially. Mohamed Nabi, Mohamed Amir, who's been brilliant for them this year from the Barbados franchise. And, I mean, the list goes on in terms of Imad Wasim, who's been with them for a couple of years. It's experience that they've banked on this season, and I think that's what's pulled them through. Bringing the likes of Fabian Allen and Brandon King back home has obviously helped them massively, but I think that will sort of give them the confidence, knowing that they have players who have been in these situations before, maybe not in a CPL position, but at international level, in Mohamed Nabi, Wasim, Amir, or even locally with a Brandon King who's been in this position 5 times for the Guyana Amazon Warriors.
Yeah. How important is the toss tonight, Nikhil? Because since they've gone to Guyana, 7 of the 9 matches would have seen the team batting first winning. The only times that we saw chasing teams win, the Guyana Amazon Warriors, a home team who are not in the tournament anymore, were able to achieve that. How important is the toss?
I think very important, Lance. And I think this Providence and the way these surfaces have played have sort of tricked people. We expect very slow surfaces, but then you look at the games played in 2022 in Guyana, the average first inning score is 173. Both these teams love to bat first. The Tallwahs have batted first 8 times this season, the Royals 7. But what it tells me is it's going to come down to how the teams start in that power play. The Tallwahs have been the worst team in this CPL starting. They've struggled with the opening partnership. Kenar Lewis has only averaged 13. Amir Jangu's only averaged 15. But they've only managed to squat a runabout. For the Royals, they've been the second best, thanks to Rakeem Kwawa, who's got the best strike rate in CPL history in this phase. Kyle Mears, we know, is brilliant. So that's going to come down to a very critical phase. We know what the Tallwahs have with the ball in hand. If Mohamed Amir is fit, I think he's taken 9 of his 16 wickets with that new ball. He's going to be so impactful. And then Chris Green. I think those first 6 overs in both innings, regardless of who bats first, will tell a lot of what's to come in terms of this matchup.
What are we likely to see later, Nikhil? Are we likely to see one of the men who've been consistent so far for the respective teams play that super hand that tilts the balance in their team's favor? Or are we likely to see someone who's been only okay, just exploded the way that Raheem Colin exploded for 91 and Shamar Brooks exploded with a century for the Tallwahs in their last game?
George, a big game. I just have a feeling that some of those players that teams may be looking past, maybe forgetting, maybe a Fabian Allen, who's only averaged 12 in this tournament, but we know what he can do at the back. We've seen him in the 60. Maybe a Najibullah Zadran, who the Royals have just brought in. Strike rate of 140 in T20s, but just scores of 0 and 2 so far in the CPL. I just feel this is the perfect occasion for an unsung hero, someone that's not really, you don't really think about on the Royal side. You know, why not? Of course, a Jason Holder, who they have, has been in this position as captain this side, but maybe a Hayden Walsh Jr. if he's given the nod tonight in difficult conditions with the Jew factor. All these things, Ramon Simmons, Obed McCoy. It could set us up for so many different stories. I think it's going to be somewhat of an unsung hero that could do well tonight.
You spoke about the strip that will be used for the game today. Same one that the Tallwahs put up 200 plus in the last game. So the pitch is full of runs. Whoever wins a toss tonight, is it that if they put up 200 on the board, you get the sense in these competitions, Nikhil, that 200 on the board, first innings, the chasing team is almost defeated already before they even start their run chase. 200 on the board by whichever team wins a toss today. Does the responding team look at those runs and believe that the strip, the pitch, and the conditions, that those runs are gettable? Mindset.
Definitely, and I'll say it because this is a final. I mean, you have nothing to lose. You've got to go for the runs. The Tallwahs on one side of things will think they can, of course, get 200 because they're the best team in the last 5 overs. They score almost 11 runs per over. And on the other side of things, the Barbados Royals, if Cornwall Mares, Holder, Corbin Bosch, if they go there tonight, can get them off to a good start in the first 6 overs like they've done all season. Of course, 200 is gettable. We've seen the Amazon Warriors chase 190 odd at this very venue. It is definitely gettable because of the power that each team possess. But what I will say is 200 on the board. I think the Tallwahs will feel slightly better about chasing 200 than the Royals because of that power. Rovman Powell, Shamar Brooks, Fabian Allen, Imad Wasim, the list goes on and on.
Last question, Nikhil. The fact is this. There have been some moments in this CPL where it's been a little bit dicey and my captain, Rovman Powell, has not quite made the right decision. Do I and the other Tallwahs fans have reason to fear that if the game is poised in a manner that needs a captain's intervention in the field, that Rovman will bottle it tonight? Do we have reason to believe that he could bottle it tonight?
I don't think so, George. I think this man is the West Indies vice captain. I've really been impressed with his captaincy. Yes, he's made mistakes, but I mean, he's human, and all captains make mistakes. What I've seen from him in terms of the animation on the field, his ability to rally and encourage his troops at real tough times during this season. Remember, this team, they didn't finish in the top 2. They had to go the hard way to make it here. But watching them after that last game, rally around in a huddle, knowing that the job is not finished, and then even hearing him speak at the end of the last game about leading the team from the front. He's come up to bat at 4. He's faced the music this season. I think, this is the perfect opportunity for Rovman Powell to show the world that he's a captain, and a captain contender, possibly for the West Indies in the future if he can get a win tonight.
Learning all the time, Rovman Powell is, I'm confident that he and the boys will do what's right. Call it for me, Nikhil. I shouldn't ask you to call it. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Barbados Royals, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got to go with the Royals, George. But I mean, I think it'll be a fantastic final. I've got to pick the Barbados Royals in this one because they've been the best team by far in the tournament. But cricket, play it on the day. I can't wait.
There you go. Thank you very much, my friend. All the best to you.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, Lance, quickly as we break. The Tallwahs need to be congratulated regardless of the result later, because guess what? This is a franchise that Andre Russell told everybody before the season was over last year that he's not coming back because this is a ramshackle environment. It's not in his best interests as a cricketer to play for the Tallwahs anymore. He left. We all thought that
was personal though, because he was unseated as a captain.
Yeah, but the sentiment suggested that it
wasn't a good space.
The back channel dealings at the Tallwahs meant that the cricket wouldn't have been good. Yes. Here we are, the Tallwahs in a final with at least a 50% chance of winning.
Yeah, and to strengthen the point that you've just made, they ended the group phase of the tournament with winless last 3 games and had to fight there. The only way they got into the playoffs is because they had done so well early in the tournament.
Yep.
But they, as Nikhil just mentioned, went the hard way and did well during the playoffs and are going into the final with a lot of momentum. I think it's going to be a classic final tonight. And as we said, Sportsmax Zone will end at 5:30 Jamaica time today, 6:30 Eastern Caribbean time, to afford us the opportunity to soak up half an hour of a pre-game show for the CPL Hero Final 2022. Back with more on the Zone after this.
Your vibes in the party stand, road to the Caribbean. Put up your one, put up your one.